So basically, I found contention with a statement you made, um, about. So you said like, I don't want to like misrepresent what you said. You said that the free market was a construct, and when someone refers to something as a construct, to me that implies, and maybe you didn't mean it this way, but to me that implies that it has, I guess, less intrinsic or less value than something that isn't a construct, for example. So I don't know if you, when you said the free market was a construct, you were also implying that it somehow is of less value to society or humanity or something like that in saying that. But I basically just wanted to get your thoughts, if possible, on.
No, just because something's constructed doesn't mean it's of less value. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. That's why a lot of people are uncomfortable when I say certain things are constructed, but...
Yeah, because I watched the video where you talked to some guy with regards to gender and sex, and I, like, watching the video where you talked about gender and it being a social construct, I guess gave me a new perspective, because I didn't believe that before, but, like, it seems like you made pretty convincing arguments to that. To that end, so I like changed my view.
Okay.
You said also, I guess this is what I wanted to debate. I didn't actually finish the video with Hassan, but I read on Reddit that you said that socialism was inevitable.
No, socialists believe that socialism isn't. It's either socialism or fascism or whatever, like inevitable outcomes of capitalism. That capitalism in and of itself is unsustainable because of the discontent of the working class.
Do you think that capitalism is sustainable?
I have no idea. It seems like maybe not, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Okay. Fuck, I'm just trying to find something to disagree with you on, so we can have like an actual discussion that's kind of substantive rather than,
Well, maybe we just don't really disagree on much.
Yeah, it seems like we don't. So you're not in favor of socialism though? I take that
Personally,
to be
no,
true.
I don't buy the labor value theory stuff, and I'm a big proponent of markets. I think they work well, so...
Well, I am too, but I'm just gonna, for the purpose
Or
of...
wait, I'm sorry, hold on, let me qualify that real quick. I'm sorry, socialism doesn't necessarily imply no markets. That would be communism. But okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I think... I used to think that... I study economics at university, so I like to think I know what I'm talking about.
Wait, real quick. What year are you?
Second. So,
Okay.
like, I'm not gonna, like, try and use, like, leverage that as, like, I guess...
Yeah, that's fine,
to
okay.
give my...
I'm just
Yep.
getting perspective. Okay, go for it.
So, I'm gonna basically argue in favor of communism. I agree. I hate it when, like, conservatives start talking about socialism, but they don't define it as anything clear, and it could imply either,
Generally,
I guess, Marxism.
well,
Yeah.
when conservatives in the United States talk about socialism, typically the only thing they're talking about is just increased social spending. It's like socialism to them, but...
But, like, to say that's stupid is economically retarded. Everyone knows, like, Keynesians know about the multiplier and how it has beneficial effects on the economy. To argue against that is basically arguing against Keynesian theory, and that's fucking dumb. Basically, I believe it's possible to sustain a marketless society. So, Marx's statement, right, where he said, we need like a few hundred years of capitalism to sustain a society where, you know, we I guess invest in enough factors of production. I think it's sustainable in the long run if there's enough capitalism to, I guess, build up wealth prior, build up capital stock prior, and then it's
well, the
sure
scary thing right now is whether or not capitalism's inability to address certain externalities can be accounted for by the government. That's the scary thing for me. So, like, for instance, the big meme right now would be like things related to the environment are the scary things, because
yeah. I don't like labeling that as a problem with capitalism. Maybe it is, but I feel like that's more of an issue with Well,
I mean, it's literally,
I hate to say human nature.
It's literally capitalism, though, right? So, environmental damage is a byproduct of the activity of firms, and it's a negative byproduct, but it's a negative byproduct that's not accounted for monetarily, right? So we'd call it an externality. It's an externality that we don't account for anywhere, and if it's not accounted for, then there's no incentive for a profit maximizing firm to do anything to address it, which is like the problem, right? Whereas like in like say communism, you can direct people like this is something you should do, this is something you shouldn't do, because the market is planned, right?
Yeah, but so there's no naturally there's no incentive in without regulation, but surely could you accept the idea, for example, that the government could, through certain tax structures, compel a firm, say, that pollutes rivers to also clean up that river?
Oh yeah, things like cap and trade, of course. I'm not saying I'm saying that capitalism on its own, pure capitalism or whatever, doesn't address these problems. You have to augment this with government subsidies in order to incentivize behavior. Yeah.
Oh, fucking people who advocate for market, or sorry, not marketless, pure capitalism are retarded. I don't think they have brains.
Yeah, we call them retarded is kind of rude. We just call them libertarians, but yeah.
Don't you say retarded all the time?
No, I've stopped actually. Believe it or not, somehow.
Stopped.
Yeah, somehow I was able to do it, but yeah.
Somehow. Yeah, okay. Another point of contention I have with you is I watched your discussion with a few philosophy guys, and I don't know if you still believe this. These videos I think were a year old, but you said essentially you don't believe in moral truths.
Yeah, of course.
So, and you described yourself, if I remember correctly, as a egoist utilitarian.
Yeah, kind of. Well, yeah, sure.
So I don't know. I had I was thinking about this, and I came up with a thought experiment. I guess. I think that may give it too much weight, but I'll just give it. I'll put it to you, and I want to see what you say. So as an egoist utilitarian, just running with that definition for now, would you say you would maximize your own utility? That is the end goal of your actions, is always to maximize your own utility. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's go with that. Sure.
Okay, so say you're in a desert. You're traveling to a place you really like, say Disneyland. I don't know if you like Disneyland, but you're traveling to Disneyland and you find someone who is passed out, dying on the ground. You know it would maximize your utility to go to Disneyland, and if you let this person die, no one would know about it. They would die, they'd be found. You would have no societal loss for it. Do you think you would let the person die, or would you just continue merrily along your journey to whatever the place is?
No, I mean, I would help the person. So this is kind of why people would call the position of egoism vacuous, meaning that it's not worth even talking about. Because the answer I would give you is I would say it would bring me a great deal of dissatisfaction to let somebody die for no reason. So I would still be maximizing my personal utility, but measuring my utility here would implore me to help the person, right?
Yeah, so it would, but if I don't know if I hope I'm not strawmanning, but when I came up with this, I came up with it in the context of what you said, and after I did a bit of reading on I think Derek Parfit's book, on what matters, and basically my point there was, if everyone in society is like you are, and would respond that way, then what is the point of labeling yourself, I guess, an egoist utilitarian, if ultimately most people are going to help the person? Then doesn't it kind of to mention that would be almost pointless, because
pointless vacuous is what I'm getting at. There's no point. I like it because I believe that it describes human behavior better. That's why I'm in favor of it.
Okay. So when you talk about someone with talk to someone, sorry about I'm a bit nervous, I guess, because I haven't really.
Yeah, no, it's
fine. So when you talk to someone about moral things, you don't view them as ought statements. You view them as what is and how can we describe it, rather than what should we do.
Sure. Yeah.
So do you not think that there's a place in philosophy or ethics to describe ought statements?
Well, I mean, I don't. I mean, yeah, I think you can. I just don't think the ought statements refer to any real fact. Does that make any sense? So, we can construct systems of morality, but I don't think that morality is something that we discover in the world.
No, or perhaps not.
Yeah, so like this is called, I believe, you'd be like a moral anti-realist, error theorist.
Yeah.
Right? You believe in error
Yeah.
theory. Yeah.
Yeah. So I disagree with that. I think, while it's true that to some extent morality is relative between individuals, there are some things that we can all accept ultimately. And like, for example, that you shouldn't kill. I think that that statement you can pretty safely say is true.
Yeah, but like, so my question would be, where do you find that? How do you discover that? Where do you see you shouldn't kill?
So if there's a universal belief in society that under certain circumstances you shouldn't like bring undue harm or kill any other sentient entity, right? I would say that in itself is discovering that belief. Like it's a pretty factual statement to say you shouldn't kill, because everyone's going to agree with you.
Yeah, but
like,
how do you get from the statement all humans have some belief to this is a belief that you should follow, or this is something you should or shouldn't do? How do you bridge those two gap? How do you bridge that gap?
Is that like the like,
is-ought gap? Fuck. Yeah, correct.
The is-ought gap. I don't know if I guess my only counter to that would be like, I don't believe that the is-ought gap is a valid thing, because the argument for the is-ought gap itself relies on the is-ought gap. I'm pretty sure there are some criticisms of, I forget who wrote it. Was it Thomas Hobbes? I don't know who it was, but like who came up with it initially. But the initial argument for the is-ought gap essentially said like, it's said as a statement of fact that like you can't discover moral statements, and then from that it then said, well then we ought not to like take them as true. So it seems to itself rely on and I don't know if that makes it invalid, but I still think it's kind of like a flawed worldview, given that it itself relies on that. So
I would have to dig into that a lot more, because it's probably, honestly, it's probably beyond me. But it sounds more like you're just I don't. Oh my God, how do we do this? Because I think what we're talking about is a difference between epistemic truth or epistemic fact versus moral truth or moral fact. So if I were to say that we can't discover morality in the real world, therefore we shouldn't say that it's like something discovered in the real world. What I'm using there, I'm employing deductive logic there. I'm not actually making a normative statement. So for instance, if I say that if I say all balls are red, and then I say that if I say all balls are red, and I say, here is a ball, therefore this ball is red, that final conclusion, that's not like a moral statement. That's not a normative statement. Like the ball should be red. It's just a deductive statement. Like if we believe these two premises, then we can say logically the conclusion follows. So if we were to say that all moral fact, or let's say all things that are mind dependent, aren't real objects, and moral fact can't be found in the natural world or whatever as an entity, so it's mind dependent. Therefore, moral fact isn't real. I don't think there's a normative statement you need to get to that conclusion. That's my gut. But I mean, there's probably philosophers smarter than me that might argue the opposite. So I could be totally wrong on that. But that's my gut feeling on that.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah, but I don't know if I accept that analogy, because like, obviously, it's logically sound, sure, but I don't think that, like, deductive logic is necessarily applicable to real-world problems. Like, they're always a lot more complicated than just you can come up with a set of premises and you can make an argument, and everyone will...
No, I would be careful on how you phrase that, because you absolutely believe in deductive logic. You have to. It's a priori granted to us. If you didn't believe in deductive logic, your whole worldview would collapse instantly.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So maybe there's like a different...
Yeah, I think I didn't phrase that very well. I guess what I'm saying is, obviously I believe in deductive logic. Like, a lot of judgments I make, I acknowledge to be deductive. But I don't think it necessarily applies to morality. And I guess I'm kind of just like dodging. I'm not really like making a counter argument. I'm kind of just like changing the definitions of things. But I think I think there's good reason to in the real world, where if we accept that deductively you can't really make moral statements, I don't think you should try to argue against moral statements based on deductive logic, as you, I think, just did. Although,
I mean, I guess like to cut to the chase, I guess my question would ultimately be to you, like, okay, well, how do we discover moral truth? How do we know for sure that we're discovering moral truth?
So back to my example of a society where it's wrong to kill. could you say, why couldn't you say, for example, that we obviously, when individuals do kill in general, we put some sort of sanction on them. I mean, in the United States, you guys, don't you like revoke their right to vote or something? In Australia, here we just, I guess, put them in prison. So I guess the truth of that statement would be like, obviously we have mechanisms and laws in place to do that, but also I think that in general, like naturally, and I don't know if I can back this up, but I think you would agree that groups of people, even without laws, would generally not kill one another. Like we don't.
Yeah, we can make these are called descriptive statements, right? We can make a million descriptive statements that people would imagine. But what I'm looking for is how do you arrive at a normative statement? Just because people do something, how can we say people ought to do something? Because like I could watch animal populations and find different behaviors. Should I say that a cat ought to torture its prey before it kills it, or the dolphins ought to torture food before they kill it? Like, where do you get these statements at? Or what if a bunch of people gravitated towards some behavior that in today's society we would consider amoral, like either cheating or killing people or stealing shit from people? Like,
the way I like to, watching your debate, like, so one of the, I guess, behaviors that you would consider amoral is incest, and watching your, like, you discuss incest with people, I guess the conclusion I arrived at is you have like general truths that people accept. I guess I can't really substantiate accepting the truths other than say like I accept them, and
yeah, they start from nothing is basically what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm saying, is that like these things are unjustified and circular ultimately. They have to be. So, but that's it. You just accept that and then you kind of move on from there.
But I still think that, like, given that there are like sure they're unjustified and circular, but the widespread adherence to them itself, to me at least, seems to prove their truth. And I guess that could be like,
you're in some insane moral relativism there at that point, right? Because you could justify so much bad behavior if you
I think, I guess the reason I wanted to have this conversation was like because I want to like get context from you and like what you think. Like I build my opinions on people I think are reasonably smarter than me, so I don't know.
I mean, if you want to fucking kill yourself, I mean, you can always, pick up Kant and start reading. I mean, that's a guy that believes in moral truth, who's probably one of the most referred to philosophers.
I don't know. I don't like Kant. I think his...
I
strive to try and justify the moral truths I believe, whereas he seems to just take them as self-evident. And
but careful, because you're doing the same thing, right? You're saying, well, if everybody believes these things, they must be true. That's pretty much being self-evident, right?
I am doing the same thing. I agree. Yeah, probably. I need to think about it more. Probably. Another thing I wanted to ask you. Sorry if this is like pointless. I don't know if I'm wasting your time.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so in your debate, I think this was a long time ago. This was in 2016, but you said like to that that dumb bitch from I shouldn't say that that girl from Pol who was arguing for Trump.
Yeah, Aiden Paladin.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the bombings of Japan with the nuclear bombs. I have this debate with a lot of people in my life, and I've yet to come up with myself or have them present me any good arguments that say that the bombings were immoral or somehow morally unjustified. I was wondering what your position on that was, given that what you said seems to, I'm not saying in the context it was true, but it seemed to imply that you take moral issue with the bombing of Japan. I wanted to know what your position on that was.
Honestly, I'm not well versed enough, unfortunately. I mean, the standard argument that's presented is that we needed to do it to avoid further casualties in the war. I've heard people say that claim is very contentious, that's not actually true, so I'm not sure what the correct answer is there.
Okay. I guess another back to the economic thing. You debated a guy on Trump's economic policy, which in general I disagree with, but during the course of that debate, you said so Trump's tariffs were bad because they obviously preclude gains from trade with China in particular, with other countries in particular, and in general economists accept that, open open trade is a good thing, and I agree with you on that. But the guy's point seemed to be that in the long run, Trump's economic policy would be beneficial from the United States on the grounds that it could bring China to the negotiating table, which it seems as though it has done.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I
mean, we'll see if like major IP laws and shit get changed, but
yeah. So, with IP, do you mean like China stealing IP?
Yeah, so right now if you want to do business in China, you're required to establish a business there and then transfer your IP over to it in order to do business, and then obviously they end up stealing a lot of resources as a result.
Yeah.
Holy
yeah, they
shit.
do. Fuck, I was hoping I could find more that I disagree with you on. I don't think I'm just like a mindless fanboy follower. Like I'd like to think I have some degree of independent thought, but I guess not. Fuck. Oh, okay. Actually, here's one. You mentioned with animals, right? You I guess in the debate with Vegan Gains, you said like you think it's hypocritical for humans to like eat cows and kill all these other different animals, but then when people say like, oh, but the dogs, have you changed your position on that at all, or is that still what you believe?
Yeah, I mean, people that love dogs and all that shit, but think it's totally okay to kill animals kind of bothers me, yeah.
I think that's okay. I don't think it's hypocritical. And the reason I think that is because, like, I guess first we have to agree on what hypocrisy is. And, like, it's essentially... I think that statement kind of relies on moral... So if you accept that there are no moral truths, right? Essentially what you're saying is, ethically, you think it's wrong for people to kill all animals, but...
I'm not saying anything is right or wrong. I'm just saying if you believe that this thing is wrong, it's pretty hard to say that this thing is right.
So with dogs, like, and I guess, okay, so from your social contract argument, I would argue that it's okay to kill cows and not dogs because the relationship humans have with dogs seems to mimic that of a social contract.
Okay, I don't care about the social contract shit much. That was like a big thing I had in the past, but that's not like the be all end all. It's just like an easy way to get from like how to deal with other kind of creatures that have the ability to fuck with me, I guess.
Okay, well, the reason I think it's okay then ultimately is because the evolutionary relationships between that humans have with dogs and that humans have with any.
Yep. So be careful, real quick. You're about to lay out a whole bunch of descriptive facts, right? But I'm gonna ask, okay, so why should I care about that? So you're about to say something about, well, evolutionary relationship, blah blah blah, and then I'm gonna ask you, okay, cool. Well, just because this is true, why does that mean that I should value them morally? It's gonna be my question.
Oh fuck. Yeah. Okay.
It's that horrible Izzard gap again, yeah.
Is there any circumstance in which you would accept that there is or gap? I feel like it's a cop out though. Like you can just with any moral claim, you can just say, well, yeah, but why should you do that? And like,
well, it's not a cop out. It's just forcing somebody to recognize like, okay, well, there is no like ultimate justification for these things. It's just a kind of a human construct, and then you move from there. If we start with some moral system or we start with some basic axioms, we can start to build morals from there. But those foundational axioms are going to be entirely mind-dependent, human-constructed things. These aren't going to be found anywhere in nature.
Yeah, I guess. I have to think about this. You've given me some things to think about and read about, which I guess was the ultimate goal of this. Dude, I don't know. I don't think I have any more to find contention with you on, or nothing that I could possibly convince you of. Okay. I guess in the interest of saving time, I think we should just stop because I don't know. Perhaps if you'd be willing to debate some other time after I'm gonna try as hard as I fucking can to invalidate your Izzard gap claim because I hate that claim.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it, you're gonna be the like most well-known philosopher like in the whole world. So. Fuck.
Well, you know what? If it takes like 7 years and a PhD in philosophy, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna switch my course right now. Yeah. In the interest of, I guess, if other people want to debate or something, I guess I'll just go back to being your average regular viewer who just mindlessly follows destiny and hates all the fucking conservative libertarians who are obviously more intelligent than all of us.
Okay.
See you, man.
All right, I'll see you later, buddy. Peace out.
Good talk.
Yep.